if you're a nurse who's exhausted from long shifts, wants to have more income and maybe more options in life, then becoming a nurse practitioner may be the move for you. However, it's not for everyone. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my real journey into how I became a nurse practitioner, what it cost me, what I gained, and how you can decide if this is something that is worth it for you to do. So before I became a nurse practitioner, I was doing neurosurgical ICU nursing at that time. And I was feeling really burnt out with bedside. Like, I love the work that I do. I love my coworkers, but it just doesn't fill my cup anymore. And there was one day when I had a really crazy shift at work. I was given two of the busiest patients in the unit. And I remember just pulling up the application form online for grad school, and I just applied. I was like, I cannot do bedside forever. This is not something that I can see myself doing in the next coming years. And I applied to grad school. I applied to a nurse practitioner program, which is in the same city where I was at working as an ICU nurse. And then a few weeks later, I got a notification in my email that I had gotten an interview for the program, and I just was like, maybe this is a sign. So I did an interview. It was like a couple interviews, and it was like the hardest process to go through, but I ended up getting into the program, and here I am now. If you had watched my videos, which I actually have privated, I have been making YouTube videos on my nurse practitioner journey. I am probably gonna put it back up again, but I went to an NPPA program and I have been a nurse practitioner for 8 years, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It was the best decision, and I'm gonna tell you really some things of my journey getting here. Like, it's not as easy, and there had been some things that I had to give up, sacrifice financially, even time-wise, and I'm going to tell you the reality in this video. So the number one thing that I want to talk about is why I chose to become a nurse practitioner. And there are a lot of things that I could do with grad school. There are a lot of things that I could do to advance my degree, but you're probably wondering, why NP, right? Like, why this specific program? Being an ICU nurse, I was essentially called to go to CRNA school initially. And actually, I did apply to CRNA school after working as an ICU nurse for 3 years, but I did not push through because I did not want to go back to school at that time. And I was thinking to myself that I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over. Knowing myself, being the self-aware person that I am, I get bored easily, and I cannot be doing the same things over and over like a routine. Like, I have to be doing so many things. If I'm being honest, the reason why I picked family nurse practitioner is because I will have a lot of options as far as like job prospects when I get my degree, when I finish my master's. And so that was the main reason why I picked the nurse practitioner route versus the CRNA route. And at the same time, the main thing really is I really value freedom, flexibility, and just like financial goals. So a lot of F's, right? F. Flexibility, because I know that like nurse practitioners have a better working schedule. I did follow somebody before I became a nurse practitioner. I have seen them work in the clinic, and I was like, oh, that must be nice, not working weekends, not working holidays. So I really wanted the same kind of schedule for myself, especially because having a family is one of my goals. When I was in my 20s, I knew that I wanted to be a mom. I knew that I want to have my own family. And so I wanted a better schedule for myself. And so that's why I went back to a nurse practitioner school. The other thing is that I did want to have more autonomy in my practice as far as like being able to independently think. But essentially, I wanted to be able to do more for my patients in a sense that I can order things for them. I know what I can help them with and be more active as far as like preventative care and education. Now, The other thing, finances really was the last reason why I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. I live in California, so I know that there are nurses here in California who make way more than me as a nurse practitioner. And I have friends who live in the Bay Area or who are like working in the Bay Area for a long time now, and they make more than me, like me being a nurse practitioner. So finances and like really is like the last reason why I chose to become a nurse practitioner, because I knew I could make more money as a nurse here in California, including the ability to work overtime, work per diem shifts, that kind of stuff. Although that may be a part of why I became a nurse practitioner, it's not the priority as far as like reasoning for going back to school. Those are the main reasons why I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. Next thing I want to talk about is my NP school journey. So I had mentioned earlier that I did go to an NPPA program. This is a dual track program, and we no longer have this in the United States. Back then, there were 2 schools that offered this program. And if I tell you that I went to this school, you're probably going to know where I went to school for on my grad school. So I went to UC Davis. The other school that used to offer this program is Stanford. And essentially, it is a program where you can be both an NP and a PA. In my school specifically, it is actually a physician assistant program. A physician assistant, or now we call it physician associate, is a licensed advanced healthcare professional who works under the supervision of a physician who's also able to diagnose and treat medical conditions, just like an NP. I think the main difference for them is like their training and kind of like their experiences under them. But the program that I attended is actually a physician assistant or physician associate program. There are about 8 nurses in the program, and the rest are all physician associates. It is a 2.5-year program, almost 3 years. And I did have to go to the classroom, which for me, I prefer than online. Online is more convenient, and I find that there are a lot of like NP programs now that are mostly online, but I like to be in front of a classroom. I actually like to interact with other people physically. So I really appreciate that we do have classes, we see each other in person, and that is how it was for those whole 2.5 years of training. The first year is all didactic learning, and the second year is mostly all clinicals. So I had to work per diem as a nurse because I initially thought that I was going to be able to go to school and work full-time as a nurse, but that whole idea flew out of the window during my first semester, because what I would do before is like I would work night shift as a nurse in the ICU, and then I would go to class at 8 in the morning after I get off work. And that I was only able to do that for maybe a semester, because I was like, this is not going to work out, because I was so sleepy in class and I wasn't able to really learn. So I had to go per diem, meaning as needed, and I did that for the rest of the whole program. It was very hard juggling everything. This is a part where I wasn't really big in my finances, and so I was just scraping by and just working per diem whenever I run out of money to pay for my rent and my expenses. And I'm gonna be very transparent with you. I only have maybe a few thousand in my savings account at that time, which I was relying on mostly when I couldn't work per diem. But working per diem has definitely made it so much easier for me to be able to afford my expenses while I'm going to school full time. And what really motivated me is my support system. I wouldn't say I was able to do all these by myself. My husband, who was my then boyfriend, was very supportive, although we had to be long distance for a while, maybe 4 hours away, because he lived in a different city here in California and I was up in Sacramento. And so we didn't really see each other as much. That full 2.5 years, I must say that I got a little bit depressed being away from family, and at the same time, the driving back and forth was like really taking a toll in my body. So that was like really difficult, but I was able to push through. But that was the struggles that I faced and the challenges that I faced, like when I was in NP school. But anyways, that was my NP school journey. And then I don't have kids yet at that time, so I would really recommend maybe doing it before you have kids. But I have had classmates who had kids and they were able to also do it with a supportive partner or like a good support system. So it's doable, but it would be very hard. I cannot see myself being able to do that right now, or maybe I could do it, but it would be a little more challenging than if you don't have any kids. Now let's talk about how becoming a nurse practitioner changed my income and be able to give me more options in life. When I left my bedside nursing job, I was working as a resource nurse, as a float nurse, and I was making around $77 per hour. And I remember my first NP job, it was like a slap in the face because I downgraded. I got an offer for a job at an urgent care when I moved, and I was paid $60 per hour. I had to negotiate that, so he was able to go up to $65 per hour. But it was a slap in the face because I was making way more as a nurse than when I became a nurse practitioner. Not to mention I have student loans again to pay off after that whole grad school. So it was financially, I don't regret it still. I love being a nurse practitioner, but financially I was like, man, is this like the right decision? Is this the right move? Because now I'm making less than what I was making when I was a nurse. But the good thing with being a nurse practitioner is that you can definitely leverage your experience and you can negotiate your salary because you're going to be working for, especially if you plan to work in a private practice clinic, you can negotiate with the attending physician or with the doctor that you're going to be working with regarding bonuses or salary progressions. That is something that you can leverage as a nurse practitioner. Now, I only worked at that urgent care for less than a year or maybe a year, and then I ended up to my current position now in pulmonary and sleep. And I have been working there for like almost 6 years. And I really love my job right now. And I am paid around 90 something dollars per hour. And that is a big progression in the past, like 7 years, 8 years that I have been a nurse practitioner. So I went from making $60 per hour to now close to $200,000 per year. But I have better hours. I only work 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts, and that includes admin time, that includes like lunch time. So it's really nice. I love my schedule. I love the whole setup that I have at my work right now. I don't work weekends. I'm not on call. I don't work holidays, which is great because when we moved from Sacramento to Central Valley, we ended up starting a family, which worked really nicely with my schedule as a nurse practitioner because I'm able to be there for my kids on the weekends. I love it a lot. And the great thing is that my job, my specialty right now is really great. I love it. It's less stress. I'm able to have the opportunity to start a side business of more of like my creative outlet. So I started a blog a few years ago and I was able to monetize it and turn it into an actual business back in 2023. And I have made 6 figures with this blog, which is really awesome. But yeah, it really opened up a lot of opportunities for me to be able to pursue my other passion and other things that I like to do outside of nursing. And at the same time, I had a failed business that I had started also. I wouldn't say everything is all like rainbows and butterflies. I started like a telehealth business because I wanted to sleep clinic. I started it in Nevada because in Nevada you can be an independent practice nurse practitioner. but it failed. I did not know what I was doing. And at the same time, I realized more and more that if I'm gonna have a business of my own, and if I'm gonna start my own company, I don't want it to be related to healthcare. Or I don't know, there may be a way to do it ethically, but I don't know, like I'm already doing a full-time nurse practitioner job. I don't want to have the rest of my time also be about healthcare, if that makes sense. I love writing, I love being creative, I love graphic design. So those are the things that I do outside of my full-time job that kind of fills my cup and be able to also use as a side business. So yeah, so I love being a nurse practitioner because I'm not as stressed at my job that I'm able to do all these other things after work. And I love it so much. It's very flexible. And to be honest with you, I really appreciate that I'm getting paid really good with my job. But at the same time, I would always pick a more flexible job than a job that pays more money. I know there are some NP jobs or nurse practitioner jobs where you could get paid with bonuses if you see more patients, that kind of stuff. For me, I'm good. I'm seeing my patients for the day, and then I can do the things that I love to do after work and make money still. Yeah, so being a nurse practitioner has changed my life. It's really one of the best investments that I have ever made in my career. Now, let's talk about, should you become a nurse practitioner? And my favorite thing to talk about when it comes to like decisions, big life decisions like this, is that it really depends, right? Like it depends. It's always going to be my answer for everything. There are some questions that I want you to ask yourself just to see if this is something that you are going to get something out of, or if it's going to be worth it for you. Number one is, are you willing to sacrifice a few years of not making full-time income in order for you to focus solely on your school? And I know that there may be more options now with online and all that stuff, but the number one thing is, are you willing to go back to school to be a student again? For me, I love being a student. I love learning. I'm a forever student, so I will always appreciate going back to school. I'm even thinking of getting my doctorate, not right now, but definitely, are you willing to go back to school? Second thing is, do you want more autonomy? Like, do you want more autonomy and be able to do more for your patients? For NPs, they're definitely more autonomous than nurses. Nurses take orders, nurse practitioners give the orders. So do you want more autonomy? I love my role right now of being able to think freely and independently when it comes to my patient's care. But I know some nurses who do not like that. I know a nurse who went to nurse practitioner school, and when she realized that she has to be independent in her practice or in her way of thinking, caring for the patient, she realized that it's not for her. So she ended up going back again to becoming a nurse with a nurse practitioner degree. Do you want more autonomy? The third thing is that financially and support-wise, do you have it? It's gonna take a village for you to be able to do this. Especially if you're a parent, if you have a family, if you're married, like, you're gonna need some support system in order for you to be able to do this. Whether you decide to do it full time, whether you decide that you can just do online, do it hybrid, you're gonna need some support system. Do you have that support system? So yeah, so those are some of the questions that I want you to think of when it comes to thinking if this is something that you should pursue. And I want you to really weigh in the pros and cons of going back to school versus staying at your nursing job. If you love the work that you do now as a nurse and you're just being pressured because everyone else is becoming a nurse practitioner or a CRNA, don't compare to others. Think of what is your goal and what is it that you actually value yourself. And that's how you'll know if this is something that's going to be worth it for you. And then lastly, let's talk about like how to prepare for nurse practitioner school financially, because I'm a nurse who invests and my channel is all about money and finances and nursing. And I want to like talk about this also in this video. So grad schools are expensive. You're going to be taking out student loans unless you can pay for your tuition with cash. But if you're not able to work your full-time job, where are you going to get your cash? So you're going to be taking out student loans. That is something that you have to consider. Second thing is you have to really track your money now. How much are you saved up now? How much investments you have now? And how much are your expenses every month? Because you're going to have to kind of plan around that. Right? Because especially if you have a family too, these are things that is like really big to consider when it comes to going back to school, is that how are you going to be able for your daily expenses, right? So make sure that you have that in mind. So make sure that you prepare for your NP school financially if you're wanting to go there. Now, becoming a nurse practitioner is one of the hardest but most rewarding decisions I have ever made in my career. And I think that if you are thinking of going back to school, you really want to go back to school and you want to create the life that involves you becoming a nurse practitioner in your future, I really recommend just doing it. Just do it and create a life that you want for yourself. Think of your long-term goals and what you really want to do. And that's how you'll know if this is something that is worth it for you or not. Just know that you can always pivot, you can always specialize, you can always find other places to work at as a nurse practitioner, and you create the life that you want for yourself. If you have any other questions, make sure you comment down below and connect with me in my social media. I am here to be with you in your journey to financial freedom as nurses. And as usual, stay hydrated, stay invested. I hope that this video is valuable for you. Becoming a nurse practitioner is one of the ways that you can increase your income and let you get closer to your financial freedom. So if that's for you, then I hope that this video has helped you. I will see you guys again in the next video. Bye.